having better, more aligned, connected sex and intimacy can actually help you to show up better in your relationship and in your business because you were able to have that regulation, that confidence.
Welcome to Startup Spouses, where we help entrepreneurial couples take their relationship from mediocre to mind-blowing. I'm Marie, a relationship and sex coach.
I'm Adam, and I'm a business coach. Yeah. And we're married.
And yes, we are.
Yes, and Marie's not just a sex and relationship coach now. Yeah. She's a Somatica trained sex and relationship coach.
Yes, I'm so excited to announce that too. So.
Yeah. Can you just share a little bit about that before we jump in? I just want to learn, what does that mean to be a Somatica trained intimacy and relationship coach?
Oh my, that just puts me on the spot. Well, I went through core training.
Yeah.
And I just finished it this weekend, so I'm really excited to share that news. And so that, doing the one-on-one coaching that to help other people within their relationship and help them go through just what is holding them back in intimacy and sex. So, I love to work with people one-on-one in that way as well too. So to kind of, ask questions.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Curiosities, not feel so alone. I think that once we have these conversations that, the shame goes down. I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The more open we are and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so glad that over the last many months, you've been in just this intensive course to learn all of this stuff and become better, just equipped with like more tools to do what you already do really well.
Yes.
Which is to help people kind of unpack that shame, really kind of let that go and embrace not just a 10 out of 10 relationship, which is what we want to help provide, but also unlock a really great sex life.
Yes, exactly.
And I mean, if you can run a great business and have a great relationship and also have great sex, I mean, that's a pretty good life, isn't it?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And just like having these ideas that you can have it.
Right.
That it's not just something that's out there or in the rom-com movies, that it's attainable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And like anything else, it takes work.
Yeah, of course.
But,
and just I love to be able to work with people and give them the tools that will help them on this journey to self-exploration and pleasure. Those words.
Absolutely.
And I would love to just continue that conversation for next time about pleasure too.
Yeah, which is a teaser towards some of our next, our next episodes, which are going to start getting a little more spicy, I'm guessing, right? We will be talking a little more about pleasure and sex and all of that because it is important and we don't talk about it enough.
Yes.
But we just want to make sure that we're curating the right kind of content that you all want to hear and that you're going to find valuable to improve your your business, your relationship, and your sex life.
Yeah, so. I would encourage people to reach out and ask questions too, and give their feedback as well, so that we can make this content more towards you, and serve you and your needs in this community. Yeah,
absolutely. And with that in mind, so today's episode we're going to talk a little bit more about the business side of it, but we're going to talk more about it in terms of conceptually, like how everything fits in together, how you kind of work with these systems in your business, in your relationship, and individually who you are. So today I thought it would be a good idea to really unpack some of those operating systems and where they're rooted and kind of some of the theories that go back into the 1970s that relate to family business systems and models that we can talk about today. Just so you know, and so you can get familiar with how to have a really great working relationship with your spouse and how it doesn't have to break your marriage, right? Because that's might be too common. There's a lot of couples that are working together out there, building businesses, and maybe their relationship has gone stale because they're putting too much focus on the business. or maybe they're enmeshed, their relationship is enmeshed in the business in some way. And it's affecting how the relationship shows up,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
I think that for a while now, I don't know. I think we put ourselves and our relationships on the back burner, and because of the fact that our fears might go towards, are we making enough money? Are
Right.
we going to be able to survive? I mean, these are like really heavy topics that people have to decide, and that puts them in the mindset of having like the fear-based mindset of focusing on the business and taking action and doing the work that, the hustle culture sort of
Right.
thing.
Oh, yeah.
So it's interesting to have that side of mindset, but then to shift into a relationship or shift into yourself and asking yourself, what do I want out of this relationship? What do I need?
Yeah.
What do I want for myself? So these questions are a little bit more subtle. They're not action based.
Right.
They're just the basic, more like the creative side of, you would say, like I want to say things about the masculine feminine energy. It's not like your man versus woman energy. It's this energy that you both have. Is, let's just say, like the masculine energy is the tree, and then the feminine energy is a wind, and it's these unseen things, but we're based on this culture of taking action, doing the things, checking off the list, and our minds get so focused there that we forget about the needs
Yeah.
and the wants and the desires and the pleasure and the stuff that we think is secondary, but is not secondary. It's part of the system.
Right.
Too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can imagine that when, those topics come up, like fear and anxiety around like economic insecurity or financial insecurity within the family or something like that, that is tied directly to a business and not a paycheck, where you just inherently have a little more uncertainty when you're building a business versus being in a W-2. Not to say that obviously you don't have uncertainty in a W-2, but for the most part, you're not thinking, you're not immersed in the day to day on just thinking, okay, how do we make the decisions that are going to help this company survive? I imagine it has an effect on your nervous system that you bring home to your relationship and your family and all of that. Is that right?
It affects everybody
Yeah.
in the house, is that sort of say, like, because if you are completely immersed into it, then like coming home, we talked about transitions before and how to do that, and just moving your body through that motion of switching into a different role. And it's difficult. It's simple, but it's still difficult to do. Right. And that's where we get caught up in the need to just focus on the things like, action oriented checklists, anything that raises the bottom line, because you feel like for some reason that will make you feel safe, but it's not always necessarily. Like, the more money you make, I was about to say, like, more money, more problems. Like,
it's true. Yeah, it is.
Thank you. but it's that saying is like, do you feel so more secure if you have more money?
I mean, I think there's just it depends. I mean, I think that there's a certain amount of insecurity that comes from like not having enough to meet basic needs. And then there's another type of insecurity that probably feels the same or rhymes with that, when you do have enough to live off of the basic needs, but now you have lifestyle that you want to maintain. And when you still feel that fear of like collapse and complete economic insecurity. But I mean, I think to that point, I think that's why it's important to internalize, and we talk about the idea of the operating systems. We'll get into that a little more. But like the individual operating system, like you in yourself as an individual, that's why it starts with you, I think. Because if you're able to put into practice the systems and habits and behaviors and all of that stuff in you to help regulate that nervous system so that you could show up more authentically as yourself, know what your desires, what your wants are, and what your and how you operate from your core, what your values are, and those sorts of things. Because when you're operating from that, you're basically operating in alignment with the type of automobile you are, so to speak, right? Some people are driving Ferraris in Los Angeles traffic, right? And it's just like, what the heck? Why are you doing that? But or they're or you're trying to drive a Ford Taurus in the Daytona 500. There's it's kind of like knowing what your operating system is and where it is, what the desires are, how it operates effectively, so that you can show up. And I think that's where things like what your training is in Somatica and in relationship and sex coaching comes in as important, because when you have all of that stuff in your business, you and all of that kind of like, oh no, we got to keep everything up, and it enmeshes in the relationship and you as an individual. But when you understand your operating system and you're connecting with another partner who understands their operating system, and you know what feeds you through the source of like how it is in your body, well, now the experience of intimacy and how you're experiencing intimacy in your body can actually be help you regulate and help you connect with your spouse on a deeper level.
Yes.
And so in that way, what I'm trying to get at in a long form way is saying that having better, more aligned, connected sex and intimacy can actually help you to show up better in your relationship and in your business, because you were able to have that regulation, that confidence, and a lot more of that. Is that true?
Yes. If you are having a better, there's like this great correlation between the two. I mean, if you think about it, in your intimacy and sex, reduces stress.
Yeah.
You feel more connected to your partner. You feel more into your body, which a lot of the time we're up in our heads. And I don't know if you've ever made a decision when you're angry.
Yeah.
That it's probably not the best decision that you've made too, or
Right.
you're in a stressful place. Those decisions are not made pretty well. So if you learn to sit in your body and be, come from a place where your nervous system is regulated, you can make better decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's true. I mean, and so I think from the operating system standpoint, from like knowing who you are as an individual, what your wants, desires are, how you show up, and then ideally your partner knows the same about them, and then connecting on that way. And a lot of this, so coming from a family business background myself, deeply enmeshed in a legacy family business that was 100 years old, fourth generation, started by my great grandfather, 60 family member owners. That's 60. Lots of family dynamics there, and there was a lot of basically the whole concept of having that long-term dynamic within a family business where people just kind of enmeshed all of the family stuff into the business and into ownership, and a lot of it became very heavy, especially so when I became the CEO of that company. I felt this weight of hearing people saying, well, you need to give so-and-so a job because they're a major owner, and you can't fire so-and-so because, they're family, and all of this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, the weight of that, it just felt so heavy to manage all those sacred cows that developed over time. And I didn't learn this until late, and I'm getting to a point of how this relates to spouses and the systems we're talking about here, because the spousal relationship is very similar to a family business, and this model is the same. But it wasn't until a few years into actually running the family business, and I'd been in this business already for 20 years when I learned this. But I was at an EOS conference, and I was listening to a breakout session by Sarah Stern, who is an expert EOS implementer, who was talking about EOS and family business. And I was there, and I was listening to what she was saying. She drew three circles on the whiteboard,
Yes.
And she said, this is a model that's going to change everything. In 1978, there were two Harvard professors that put this model together for family business. And in one circle, it was basically if you envision a Venn diagram with three circles, they're overlapping circles. One circle on the top it says ownership, right? That's where the owners of the business would sit. In another one of those overlapping circles, it had family. That's where the family, like the family, whatever you classify as the family, would sit. Brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, even married couples working in the business. So that's the family circle. And then the other circle was the business circle. And she showed that model up there as those three kind of independent circles that were overlapping. And they were overlapping, certainly, because when you're in a family business, all of those elements come into play in running a family business. You have a family dynamic, you have a business dynamic, and you have ownership dynamics. And the next part is that she kind of brought up was that if, those, in a lot of families, unfortunately, those three circles just overlap into one congealed glob. Yeah. First of all, some family members will sit in the ownership seat and the family seat and the business seat, meaning they're employee, they're part of the family, and they own it. Some may not be owners, so they're sitting in a different part of the circle, so they're sitting in different places. But when those three circles overlap, that's when you had a dynamic like we had when I was running the company. All of this enmeshed detail of like, well, you can't fire him, you can't, and all this kind of stuff that was so heavy that made all of the relationships feel transactional.
It kind of muddied the waters.
100%, yeah.
So to speak, too.
It muddied the waters. It led to artificial harmony in the business so that nobody was willing to communicate and say the hard thing because you have owners as employees in the business. So how are you going to hold owners accountable if you don't separate that out? And then you had family that was like, okay, well, I was in diapers when you started in this company, and now I'm your boss. But how does that work out? Because there's no accountability, and everything is just chaos when those circles overlap. Mm-hmm. And the key thing there is that in order for a family business to be successful, you have to basically pull those circles out and make sure that they have their independent accountability, meaning when you are operating in the business circle, you are an employee of the company. You are no longer part of the quote unquote Hill family or whatever family you are. You are no longer an owner in the business. You are just that employee doing that job. And that's where a system like EOS or another operating system can help, because it brings that accountability as long as everybody's willing to separate that out and make it function like an actual business and professionalize it. So you have to have an operating system around that business. And then the second one is the family circle. You have to have the same thing. You have to be, if you're going to be in the family circle, you have to be family. You can't be talking about the business stuff. And if you're in the owner circle, you have to have the ownership stuff like that, right? You have to have that structure. So the point of all of that is when those three things are separated out, those three circles are separated out, they function more effectively, and you have a healthier business, a healthier family, and an opportunity for a healthier family. And you have a healthy ownership structure. And I'm not going to go into detail about those specific elements, but what I want to do is I want to shift that over now into what that looks like in a spousal dynamic where you are generation one and you are a married couple that is building a business together.
Yes.
Because now those three circles still matter, right? Yes. You have the business circle. You have the relationship circle now instead of the family circle. It's your relationship, right? And you have what I would call the individual or the personal circle, where this is you as an individual. Taking out ownership there for a moment. I mean, obviously, it matters how you structure the business, but think of those three circles now. You have the business, the relationship, and the individual, right?
Yes.
Each of those three circles needs an operating system in order to be functional and effective independently of one another and to complement one another. They have to operate independently of one another so that they can complement one another.
So building what you're saying, if I can, building a structure and clear boundaries of each individual circle or each individual things in order to provide support to the other individual circles. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
and that's kind of the way you create boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Is you have to have some kind of scaffolding, which is a system for how to operate your either or that thing that to have those boundaries. Like boundaries exists within a system, right? Otherwise, if you don't have a system for boundaries, then there's no boundaries. You need an operating system for each one of those things. If you don't know what your personal individual operating system is, how do you show up in your relationship?
What does a personal operating system look like? Like, what would you, I'm just trying to think of like the manuals that you read
Right.
at work, and like, I'm like, wait, how does that apply to me as an individual look like?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think as an individual, it's a bit different than what you're looking at in a business. But in all three of these things, finding out what your operating system is, if you think about like putting a system in place in your business, what is the first thing you want to do? Is you want to determine really where you are now. What is it that you're trying to solve for? What is it you need to fix? And in a business, it's well, we want to solve for, what we want to achieve this in the next 10 years, and so how are we going to do that? And you work backward to put those boundaries in place. And it's not much different for an individual. I mean, it's really like, okay, well, where am I now? Who am I now? Because you won't know who you truly want, what you truly want, and who you truly are until you peel back the layers of what your identity is, and that identity that's been shaped for you over time. Because if you've lacked an operating system up until this point, it doesn't matter if you haven't put one together for yourself. If you haven't, one has been created for you, meaning an identity has been shaped for you. It's been shaped in how you've shown up as a son, a father, a husband, a wife, a person in your business. That identity has been shaped for you. And if you can peel back that and just ask yourself, basically, where am I? What do I represent? What am I? And then kind of dig in deeper. It's kind of like you might say, well, I'm a business owner. Oh, really? Why are you a business owner? Well, because I wanted to build this business. Like, well, why specifically that business? Digging deeper, it's like, was that something that was truly came from your core, or was it something that was shaped for you by some other purpose? It goes into like, well, I'm a husband, I'm a father, or whatever. It's like, okay, dig in. Like, is that truly like who you are at your core? Did you have kids because that was just what you felt like you had to do, and because that was so imprinted early on, it became kind of like this passion for you. But digging deep and just finding out who you truly are at your core, and those can be really difficult questions to find that identity. But as you do, you start to discover what your values are, what your vision is, individually, independent of all of those things. What are you at your deepest level, right?
Yeah, I think like that is a really interesting question that I even struggle with all the time because of the expectations that were placed upon me, as a woman. And then you're like, okay, well, when are you going to get married? Mm-hmm. And then you get married. Okay, now I'm a wife. When are you going to have kids?
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay, like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to be doing in life. And then, okay, when are you going to have grandchildren? Or that, and then expectations for a career. It's like, who am I in my job? And then you kind of assign all these labels to yourself.
Right.
I don't know if we do it because it makes us feel secure, or it's harder to ask that question of who we are at our core,
right.
Because it's these questions is like, I don't know.
And I want to make it clear that if you're experiencing that misalignment or anything like that, or if you're discovering through that like process that, oh my gosh, I'm not aligned. I don't know like what I like. I'm not living what I wanted, or I didn't know I had like. it's not meant to feel shame. It's meant to be kind of liberating that you at least understand that, and you can start communicating that and maybe making that shift a little bit. And it doesn't have to be perfect. That's the whole goal. Like we talked about perfection
Yes.
before, right? So it's like, yeah, perfection is a limiting belief. In any of these operating systems, they're not meant to be perfect. They're meant to be, like you said, put the boundaries in place so that you can operate effectively within your operating system and not be misaligned, not have that enmeshment, have that separation, that clear boundary between business, you as an individual, and you in the relationship, so that they're not all enmeshed.
Do you feel that you have to spend time in like the different circles? Because or let me phrase that a different way. Like, are these meant to be a certain amount of time every day that we're spending individually in a relationship and in our business? Or is this something that, I don't know, maybe weekly scheduled? Because I know there's a lot of people out there. It's like, okay, I need to know exactly how much time to spend on this, and how much time to spend in my relationship, and how much time to spend on my business, because I feel out of control.
Yeah.
I don't feel like, if I need to know exactly what to do. Like they need to know exactly how to use the operating system in order to be successful, to be everything that they check everything off the list.
Right,
for,
right.
So.
Well, it's 8 hours and 46 minutes in the business, and it's 7 hours and 22 minutes. I'm kidding. But no, I think to answer your question, I think it's different for everybody. And part of that operating system is that there's specific tools you can use that you need to use to like actually develop your operating system, like discovering your core values or discovering your vision and discovering like what your core desires are or your wants or your needs or all of in your relationship, like individually, like what is your intimacy style, right? Or things like that, where you would work with someone from a somatic level to help them understand sexually who they are,
Yeah.
and how they show up in a relationship. Then collectively in the relationship, you build that operating system together. It's customizable, but there's frameworks and tools to help you do that, right? The scaffolding.
Yes.
But you kind of have to figure that out on your own, like how much time you spend in each one. And that all comes to like, what is that part of your operating system? What is your capacity in the business? When you're filled up and when you're doing the activities that really light you up and give you energy, how much time do you want to spend there? How much time do you want to spend in your relationship? How much time do you want to spend by yourself? Like, just that. 'Cause some people like don't want to spend any time with themselves. But I mean, I would argue that there's some valuable time to be like being alone, but you don't want to spend 24 hours alone, right? You want to quantify that for yourself. The whole point of all of these things, first, the self-awareness. Know where you are and know where you want to be. Those two data points can give you the map of that point. And then the rest is building the map to getting where you are or where you want to be and setting the pace in terms of how long it takes you want to get there. Or and then working with your partner to help you do that in the business and the relationship. But I think it's always wise to start with yourself and your internal operating system first, or your personal internal operating system.
So, how do we do that? I mean, I feel like we have a clear plan of what our business looks like, and I feel like there's a little bit more clear plan of what relationships should or should not be, and then I feel like there's not really a guide for yourself.
Yeah, there's not really a guide. There's and I think the word you said there for like, there's things that we think we should do, right? And those are the questions you want to really dig into. I mean, I would say just spend a couple weeks just asking yourself, like, or catching yourself when you say should. Like, oh, why am I saying that? And that's where you dig in. That's where you find the true root of that. I should be spending more time here. I should be doing this. Oh, wait, is that really something that is deeply rooted in like my operating system, or is it somebody else's imposed operating system for me, or something else, or some kind of conditioning?
Yeah, so it's basically going like introspective work
Yeah.
of not like I would say a lot of people would say this is self-care.
Yeah.
So they would incorporate meditation and journaling and even therapy
Yes.
in the self. But I wouldn't want to stop there because I don't think that just quantifies like the whole aspect of self
Yeah.
too. So what is my question here for?
Well, is it like how do you take what you're learning from those questions about identity
Yeah.
and like actually start applying them?
Yeah.
Is that right? I think it involves really, okay, so the discovery process is first. It's just discovering your core elements of like, what do I value? What do I want? And I think we guide people through those questions when we're coaching them. Earlier on, therapy might help unlock some of the other layers that are burdening you or holding you back, like other, if it's trauma, or if it's some kind of limiting belief or things you need to work through in therapy. That's where you work that out. And then from a strengthening standpoint in coaching, it's like, okay, well, discovering what those core elements are. Now, what do I value? Where do I want to go? What lights me up? Like, how do I want to spend my time? Creating like an adventure list of like what you want to experience, the places you want to go, the people you want to meet, the experiences you want to have. And then logging those like into a vision of what that looks like 10 years from now, narrowing it down to like what that looks like this year, and doing that individually. Things like creating a vivid vision. Cameron Herold wrote a book called Vivid Vision, which is very great to actually kind of focus on like where you want to be 3 to 5 years from now, giving that reflection. But I think that it all starts with you knowing where you are right now and getting real and clear about that. Because if you're not clear about that, you just don't know where to start. Right. And so a lot of that work then leads into what finding that operating system, which is like, okay, so now I've got my values, I've got where I want to go and all of that stuff. So what are my goals? Like, what am I going to bring to this relationship and this business?
Yeah.
And that's where the overlap happens, I think, in those 3 circles. Because in the overlap between the relationship and the individual, well, now you've got the things that you work with clients on, like, the relationship and individual intimacy and sex coaching to know what those core desires are. And you can speak more to that because that's part of the operating system, the individual operating system. And that's brought into the relationship on how people kind of fuse those individual desires into a collective operating system for the relationship. So maybe speak a little more to like what that intimacy kind of looks like in the individual side of the operating system.
For the individual, it's kind of, I don't know, like we don't talk about it as much. Mm-hmm. And it's just having that space to be open to, what do I want to feel?
Yeah.
What do I want to feel during intimacy? What like turns me on? Mm-hmm. What sort of thing, what kind of fantasies in my head? And yes, we do all have fantasies in our head. It's even during sex is like we have these fantasies in our head too. And ignoring that, it's not going to make them go away. But just coming from a place of having these conversations, understanding that we're okay having it too, and being able to have these conversations with a partner too of how I think that we assume when we are with a partner that it's like those rom-coms, like they all like they're passionately kissing and they're throwing off their clothes and then it turns to them like laying on the bed like with happy, satisfied looks on their face. And we all if we all know that that's not true.
Yeah.
Like if we have that assumption that this person's going to know what they're doing and I'm going to understand what he wants. Mm-hmm. That's setting yourself up for failure.
Right.
Like first of all, I need to know how my body functions and what I like.
Yeah.
So having that self-exploration is important.
It's such a good point, because like, especially when you're able to communicate that between your individual wants and needs and everything and what's happening in the relationship, regardless if there's misalignment there, that communication and understanding leads to solving an issue, because every relationship on the planet, like every business, has issues that just need to be solved. And sometimes there is misalignment. Sometimes there are desire discrepancies. A lot of times there are. And in those cases, you have to be open and honest about it. So part of those three circles of individual, relationship, and business being appropriately separate, but also complementary, is that there's openness and honesty around all of it. That there's safety to be open and honest about all of it. Because when you have openness and honesty, you don't have artificial harmony or mean-spirited conflict. You have constructive conflict, which is going to exist everywhere, which is not argumentative. It's hey, how do we put this issue in front of it? How do we resolve it? And again, not towards perfection, but the more open and honest you can become, and that includes, yes, talking about the fantasies you think about during sex.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I mean, because we all do have them, and it's just like and also talking about, like, the fears and anxieties and things like that. So it's part of that operating system to incorporate a mechanism for communication, which includes, in the business, you have weekly meetings. In your relationship, you should be having meetings as well, right? That's part of the operating system,
Yeah, I think if you have to practice communication,
right,
and you have to practice problem solving with each other, and coming from a place of curiosity instead of judgment and or defensiveness, because it's really important that we approach all these relationships, because it's all relationships. It's a relationship to yourself, relationship to your partner, and then relationships within your business. They're all communication, and being able to come from a place of curiosity is really important, so that you can move through. It's not because, well, that's the way I am and that's how it's going to be.
Right.
And just putting your foot down is like stomping off is not going to solve your problems there. Like, I don't know. It's just the way it is. I know we've all heard that. I think all Gen X is triggered by that one.
Seriously, yeah. That's like the boomer rally cry.
Oh my God.
It is what it is.
Oh my goodness. But it doesn't, like, we need to have a conversation about this, and it needs to be worked through, and these issues need to be resolved. And this is the important part, that it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, or maybe, and when we do it more often, we can realize that they're not attacking me.
Right.
We're coming up with issues, and then we're solving them.
Yeah. We're respecting that each individual has their own operating system.
Yeah.
And we get to work in collaboration with those.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we wanted to kind of convey on this episode, because I mean, we could go deep into all of those circles and what all of those operating systems contain, and that's what we plan on doing on this show. But we wanted to kind of give you a high-level overview of like what that three circles model is, that is rooted in, Harvard business theory and family business, in family business theory, that relates to spouses that also build businesses together, but also relationships that are coming together, and how to have a strong relationship. And to have a strong relationship, be clear on separating out those three specific circles: your business, your individual, and your relationship. And make sure that they complement one another, that those operating systems in each one that you need to have complement one another. And work in those systems and around those systems with openness and honesty, knowing which system you're in at any given time. That's where you can find success in knowing who you are, having a 10 out of 10 relationship, and building a strong business. Unfortunately for Marie and I, we can help you to achieve that. If you are a couple that is building a business together and a life together, we can help you to develop those individual, the relationship, and the business operating system so that you can run each as a well-oiled machine that gives you the fulfillment and the satisfaction that you want so that you can run a great business, have a great relationship, and have really great sex.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree with that.
Yeah. And if you want...
It's not impossible.
It is not impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been able to achieve that and help others achieve it as well. And we have a free download that you're welcome to download that can help you kind of start on that path. Absolutely free. It's just a 20-minute weekly connection guide that can give you the tools and the resources to have a great meeting every week, to connect better with your spouse and understand that relationship operating system a little bit better. It's a great starting point. You can download it for free. If it's not ready yet in the show notes, don't worry. We're working on it. We're getting that page up. But if you want it right away, reach out and we will send it to you.
Yes, exactly.
So thanks for joining us this time. Any final words before we end?
No, I like the fact that I get to spend this time with you and learn from you as well too.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that.
Thank you. It's been great to learn from you as well, especially to be the beneficiary of some of this intimacy coaching that you are going through. So
thank you.
So thank you for that. And thank you all for joining us this week on Stardust Spouses. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.